Let the record show members of the council that are present, with the exception of Councilmember Lopez, and he is still at work. I would like to call for an approval of agenda.
Make a motion of the agenda as read. I'll say.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Givens,
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Yes.
and Mayor Prop.
Thank you, yes. Public comment time. This is a portion of the meeting reserved for persons wanting to address the council only on matters listed on this agenda. Speakers are limited. Unless you have additional time as needed, we'll have for translation. State your name and address for the record. Now, it is an informational meeting, and it is also in a workshop manner. So your comments can come forward at this time for any matters, or you can wait and do it during the workshop meeting. So it's up to you. You may come forward here. No, hearing none. I'm going to say our meeting is for Senate Bill 1383, an informational workshop, and we have staff here who is Michael James, and he'll lead us in the workshop.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the Chappaqua City Council, and members of the public in attendance in person and virtually. As Honorable Mayor and members of the Council, you may recall, a public workshop was conducted on November 30th of last year to introduce the staff's SB 1383 compliance plan. And for those of us who were there, or those of us who heard it, obviously we did receive some strong opposition from the participants at that workshop. We mostly contested the proposed transition from alley service to curbside service, and to a lesser extent, they expressed concern about discontinuing the annual brush program. So a second workshop, council-based workshop, was conducted immediately before their December 18th meeting last year. And some council members expressed the same concerns. And but since then, staff conducted additional research and met individually or offered to meet individually with council members, and we even provided a ride along to tour the alleys up close and personal, so we could see. So the council members could see staff concerns about alley service in a SB 1383 world. So as reported at your January 18th meeting, a couple of weeks ago, based on additional research and discussions with some council members, the compliance plan has not changed at this time. And given that we're facing a looming mandate to have a local ordinance in effect to commit the city to SB 1383 compliance, the council adopted an ordinance that complies with the state mandate and also gives staff discretion to ultimately work towards curbside three-cart service citywide. So staff are here tonight along with representatives of American Refuge to describe how a transition to SB 1383 service will take place. I'll be covering rates, the remaining council action to be expected, and what to expect with regard to enforcement once the three-cart service is underway. American Refuge will discuss their recommended collection schedule and the proposed transition for alley customers that'll go to curbside service. So there's not a projection screen, there's not a presentation, or a formal presentation to make. I'm just going to be referring to the sheet that has a couple of tables and the three topics being the rate change summary, future council action plan, and the enforcement. I'm going to be referring to that. So the first table is a summary of what the current rates are for all chapter residents, including the Port City residents and those in Crossland Grove, versus what the estimated rates are if the new programs are approved by the council to take effect in 2022. You'll notice that the current alley customers with the shared container pay significantly less per month than the curbside container. And as covered at the previous public workshop, that's because we've determined that it's a lot more efficient to lift the container that has refuse for 3 or 4 households versus individually for each one of those houses. So it's a lot more efficient, so they pay a significantly reduced rate. With SB 1383, the state's mandating a 3-cart service. So essentially, the state's taking away that efficiency away from us. So the proposed rates based on American Refuge's proposal, marked up with a 15% franchise fee, which is pretty typical for municipalities. The rate comes out to $26.45 per month with a 3-cart service citywide. And then compared to Gossamer Grove, which already has a 3-cart program, it's in line. You can see the rates are in line with Gossamer Grove is paying for very similar service. If you were curious, right now staff's recommendation is to maintain monthly billing for your new services exactly like it is now. It will be coupled with water and sewer bills. As far as future rate increases go, after this program is initiated, American Refuge has given the city a couple of options to consider. One option is locking into a multi-year rate plan up to 5 years that I believe has 3% annual markups. Another option, which is what staff will likely recommend to the council, is basing it off of a formula that references consumer price index and labor rates. So it's basically reviewed on an annual basis. And this is what the system that Gossamer Grove uses right now for their 3-cart program. And it's essentially what the county utilizes for all of its franchise areas. And it's used fairly well. And you can kind of see, based on the Gossamer Grove example, what the rate increase pattern is over the last few years. So an average of 3% is pretty comparable to what American Refuge is offering to lock in for 5 years. But I think given that inflationary factors and everything else, I think it's important to monitor that on an annual basis just to make sure that American Refuge has an equitable service rate. Moving on to future council action plan. At the last meeting, the last regular meeting, January 18th, the council adopted an ordinance to basically put this conversion to 3-cart curbside service into motion. At the next meeting, February 1st, they're going to consider an ordinance to formally award the franchise to American Refuge. And as early as February 15th, the council is going to be asked to authorize a protest hearing. The protest hearing is basically a public hearing that gives impacted residents and businesses the minimum of 45 days. They'll be given at least 45 days notice of this protest hearing. So they have ample time to review the proposal, file a written protest, or even appear in person during that protest hearing. And right now, if the council authorizes that protest hearing to take place mid-February, the earliest this protest hearing can take place is mid-April if we provide that 45-day notice. Assuming we conduct the hearing and the council approves the rates and the new services, American Refuge is prepared to distribute the 3 carts initially to the existing curbside service containers within a projected 2-week period. And what we have proposed, CalRecycle is basically the state agency that's going to be enforcing all these new regulations and keeping in close contact with the city. We proposed a 1-year transition period for the alley customers so we can make sure that we address any issues with access issues, other things that have been raised. We want to make sure we have ample time so staff can meet the people on an individual level and just to sort through all these potential issues that might exist. So American Refuge is going to get into the specifics and they'll refer you to, this is a big version of the map, but I think you hopefully have individual smaller versions that you can refer to. But I want to point out with regards to the transition schedule, this is all subject to state approval. I have had contact with CalRecycle a week or 2 ago to discuss this potential transition schedule. And although they haven't committed to approving it or to denying it, they basically stated that it's their intent to have this transition completed as early as June. And they're considering our proposal right now. So ultimately, we're going to advocate for this 1 year period because I think it works best for this community. But if the state has the ultimate say, and we'll definitely share what their ultimate decision is once we know what it is. And as far as the alley transition schedule, this is something that was put together with by American Refuge. And it's really the rank of priority, the order of it is really based on ease of the transition. So if we see the more challenging alleys with access or anything else that's been raised, more than likely that alley will be on the latter end of the transition schedule. As far as enforcement goes, the state has specifically allowed for up to a couple of years to focus on education and outreach rather than violations and potential fines. So we intend to take full advantage of that and use the next 2 years to refine this program and make it work for everyone. But in 2024, the state's expecting us to be in enforcement mode. And so we need to be prepared. So we need to utilize the next 2 years to make sure we've worked through all the bugs and we have this program dialed in pretty good. Now, inevitably, we're going to be inspecting containers and we're going to have to identify sources of contamination, people that aren't using the containers properly. And ultimately, we're going to have to issue citations that could very well lead to fines if they're not corrected. And the council has not considered a monetary fine policy yet, but one option for them to consider is something similar to what is utilized for water wasting, where the first violation is $50 and then ultimately escalates to $250 for the second violation and $500 for each additional violation. So that covers the city's outlook on this over the next few months and the next few years. Does anyone have any questions before I hand it off to Jeff and Linda Martin with American Refuge? Jeff?
Hello, good evening. My name is Jeff Martin. I'm with American Refuge. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Martin. I'm with American Refuge. You have a couple sheets before you here. And so there's kind of two parts to this. There's if you're a curbside customer and you're an Hollywood customer. So if you're a curbside customer, just by show of hands, who here right now rolls their trash out to the curb? Alan, you. So if you're a curbside customer, as Mr. James was explaining, the second week of April, we will start distributing our 3-card system. It will take us 2 weeks to do all the curbside customers. Starting in May, we'll start transitioning the curbside customers. There's 2 maps. The first map that just has color on it, that just shows the day of the week that you will be picked up when you have 3 cards. The map on the back, the city's broken into quadrants of the alleyway customers. And as you can see by number, that will be the first week starting in May, and then to the second, and so on. Once we get to October, we will be then on the east side of Blairville Highway, and we will transition the last part of the city over there, and we should be done around March of 2023. You'll get a lot of information when you get your carts to really explain what day. As Michael was saying, there are some things that are subject to change due to Cal Recycle. For the alleyway customers, which it looks like most of you are alleyway customers, we split the city just down Central Valley Highway. just an east and a west side. And as we get closer to this, we will distribute the maps to everyone so you know. And it's pretty simple. If you're on the east side, you'll be picked up Monday and Thursday, your alleyway collection. If you're on the west side, you'll be picked up Tuesday and Friday in the alleyways. So you'll know when we start our transition, because obviously you'll get 3 cans in front of your house. And after we distribute the cans, that'll have the information of what you can put in the cans, your collection day, and all the information. Then we will collect the cans that are currently in the alleyway.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Martin. I'm going to ask if Maria can come and help me here, point out some things because I can't use my microphone. Over to my left here are the 3 cans that you will be receiving. And although you can't, each can has a specific label of what goes in it. So organics, you can put your yard waste, your food waste, soil paper products, so napkins, paper towels, things of that nature. Your blue can, which is right here. This also has a label on it, and it has items that can go in it, such as newspaper, aluminum cans, and bottles. And there has been a question, can I keep my CRV and turn it in? Yes, you can. Okay, we need you to put your cardboard, paper, and other things that are on here. This is your trash can, will be black in color. These are the items that you are supposed to put in here. Plastic bags, styrofoam products, polystyrene, just general trash. We ask that you do not put any green waste because your yard green waste is supposed to go in your organics can. And you're not supposed to put any household hazardous waste, that is batteries, light bulbs, paint. Those are to go to a special waste facility. As you've noticed right here, we have a QR code on the cans. You can take your phone and it will take you to our mobile app. If you have any questions on what goes in each can, you can actually type it in and it will tell you what can it goes in. Another promo item that we will be rolling out to every resident is an in-home bag, and if Maria could hold this for me. This will be tied to your blue bin. It has a welcome to your new trash service. It will have how to use your bag, and your bag has what can go in your blue bin in it, okay? It also has a list of things that are contaminants that we don't want in your blue bin, so clothes. I find a lot of clothes in Kern County in my blue bin, or my blue bins. So if they're in good shape, please donate them. Don't put them in the blue cart. So it has a list of things like that. On this side, it has items of household hazardous waste, which I've explained, okay? So these are meant just as a little bonus to keep in your house. You can hang it on your door and put your recyclables in it, and then you can dump it into your blue bin. It has a little handle on the bottom. The other option that we are giving you, this is not required, it's just an option if you'd like it. We are trying to make it easy for folks to carry their food scraps or food waste out to their green pail. So these are countertop, put under your sink to hold your food scraps. There's been a question on if you can use a bag. You cannot use a plastic bag, but you can use what's called a bio bag, biodegradable bag. And this is what they look like. They're small. You can put these in the bin, and then you can put all of that in there. What I like to do is I actually just take a paper towel, put it in the bottom, and all the food scraps come out. Another item that everyone will be getting, and I feel like most of you probably got it here tonight, is our triangle brochure. And this actually has what items can go in what bin, okay? And they're segregated by blue for recycle, green organics, and the black for trash, okay? And it says everything you can put in it. It also talks about contamination, the HHW that I talked about, and not to overfill your bins, okay? We have some helpful tips on the back here cart spacing, putting your can out, the night before the day of. And the other thing that we're most proud of is we actually have an app available to all of you once the service starts. So I know there's been some questions and maybe some folks that have been trying to use it, and I do apologize. I don't have everyone loaded into our system, but once you are loaded in, you'll be able to access our app. You can set up your pickup day, and it will set a reminder for either the night before or the morning of to remind you to put your cans out. It also has the waste wizard on it. And another thing that we've offered to Shafter is bulk item pickup. So a lot of times people have mattresses or a couch and they don't have a way to transport it. So actually on our app, there is a button that you can push. It says AR pickup. It has a picture of a sofa. And you can put it in, it will go to our dispatch, and we will be usually doing those on Fridays. It will be a scheduled event, so don't worry about trash laying around the city. Everything will be scheduled through our office to get picked up.
And that's free of charge.
And it's free of charge. And then for those of you who have been living in the city of Shafter for a while, we have been doing the bulk item events, fall, spring, they're free. You can bring your e-waste there. You can bring your white goods such as water heaters, things like that, washing machines. We're going to continue to do that for the city of Shafter, so you'll have a way to dispose of them. Some tips on our green waste. I've had some questions about that. We have this little pail, and as I said, that's an option. We're going to have an office here in Shafter. So if you are interested in receiving one of these pails, you'll also receive one of these, which is kind of like some little tips on how to use your green waste container. This flips around where it can go to your dishwasher, you can wash it. And it also talks about what type of biodegradable bags are acceptable at the compost facility. It's all listed. And just other tips such as, we suggest that you put your yard waste in there first before you put your food waste, or maybe a newspaper at the bottom. You can put baking soda in if you do have some moisture. So it has some tips on that. The other thing I just wanted to go over is for Shafter, we were doing your pickup day will be all 3 cans. Okay, so if you hear the garbage truck, please don't pull all your cans in and think we didn't pick you up. We have to have a different truck for each can. So just give us to the end of the day to make sure they're all picked up. Okay, don't think that we've missed you, but we have to have it in all different trucks. I think that's about it on my end. Does anyone have any questions about the 3 cans or the graphics or 3 printing? We'll go in the front. And yard waste and
so when you guys drop our cans for us, I assume we're not doing alleys, so we're all in curbside. Is that where we're going to have our pickups? I live on a corner, so that where you drop off our cans, where we will put them out every time you pick up.
So we'll drop them off in front of your house. So typically when we drop them off, we set them in front of your house, in front of your address, place to identify, and we take a photograph so we know what can number you got and to make sure that you got the cans. And if you call, it really helps us out, and it goes into our system so we keep that correct. So for us, all we ask is that you put it out in a place that we can access it from the street. So we don't mind where you put it at in front of your house, as long as it's curbside and as long as we can access it from the street. So if you live on a corner, it can be anywhere around the corner. We really don't have a preference.
Okay, and then the cans. So if my tire breaks on my can, am I responsible for replacing that?
No.
I don't.
We'll take care of anything that goes wrong with the can. If you could go, the easiest, fastest way is go to your app, and there's a selection in that for a container or something. Sorry, I'm getting some people here trying to block it. It is just reach out to us through our app, or if you can always call us on the phone and we'll take care of it right away. Mr. Nelson. I'm sorry.
I have one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that, did that can, let's say, for some reason, someone stole my trash can? Is that, do I have to replace it or will one be replaced? Or do I own my trash can?
That's a really sticky question, and there's really no good answer for that. I don't know. I almost might need to refer to Michael or go back to our contract to see what it says, but there's kind of twofold. Some people roll out a can and put something in it and it burns to the ground, or something happens to it, it gets defaced or it gets run over or something like that. That's not caused by us. Ultimately, the customer is responsible for it. When a can gets stolen, you know, there's no way that we can enforce the entire city to keep people from stealing cans. So if, you know, somebody leaves their can out for 2 or 3 days, we really have no control over that. And there's no way we can be responsible for it. But we will do our best to work with everyone to ensure that, you know, we don't have a lot of cans missing. And that typically what we do when we do get a missing can or a customer calls in, we will let you know the can number and say, hey, you know, keep your eye out. More often than not, it was your neighbor that took it accidentally. And we'll keep our eye out also. And believe it or not, most of our drivers, they know the sequence of the can numbers and they know where they go, and we're able to pick it up and bring it back. And we usually try to give like at least a week to find it, because normally the next trash day we'll put it back out if they realize they took the wrong can, or, you know, who knows. We've had some interesting circumstances. Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, you said all cans would be picked up weekly. I thought recyclables were every other week.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yes, recyclables every other week. I just wanted to.
You'll do the same day, just to look at
Okay.
it. And on the commercial side, commercial and churches where they have the large bins, are they going to take those away and go to the 3-can system, or how will that work?
So nothing's really gonna change in the commercial side of it. Most of the customers in the commercial aspect of it are meeting most of the state requirements. The state often changes those, so I'm not gonna say nothing's gonna change because we're still subject to do what the state asks us to do. But for the most part, right now, nothing's really gonna change when it comes to commercial customers.
And for the commercial customers, their organics rate dropped last fall of 2020. So the ones that need to have the 3-cart system that fell into the threshold are already in compliance. So we just follow along with whatever state law dictates.
Alan?
Yes, did you have you made a comment about mine on Tuesday? Are we still gonna get like our organics picked up twice a week? Are we still gonna have service around twice a week? And if I don't put out my trash, it will just ride by?
So if our pickup is once a week for all 3 cans on the same day.
Okay, so it's once a week, not twice a week. Okay.
Well, and I'm sorry to be confusing. What I was talking about is for current alleyway customers. As we transition, we're going to continue the twice a week schedule until your transition. Once you get 3 carts, then it will be a once a week collection. I'm sorry, it's kind of confusing.
Oh, no.
I'm trying my best to.
You said it twice a week.
Yeah.
And that's that's why the woman is still on twice a week.
Yeah, if we have a large yard, we generate a lot of green waste, can we pay extra to get an extra green container?
Absolutely. Yes, in our rates, we have extra additional cans for all 3 cans. So if you want additional green waste, if you want additional recycle, if you want additional trash, you can get as many as you like.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Off the top of my head, I don't want to quote it. I know that we sent it over to the city when we did our proposal. I can tell you it's more than 5 and less than 10, somewhere in there. And it varies per can. Any other questions? Chad, you seem to have your hand up.
Blue bin
Move it.
over there.
Hey,
Like some of the tap garbage, and they use, the large dumpster we have now. Some of them put it in the dumpster, some of them put it in their own truck. So how is this gonna work between them? I have a partner carries it with his own dump truck, the green waste. But annually, I prune my own trees and I haul it up myself. I won't, I don't put it in the front of the house or I don't leave it in the alley. So no, what you're saying, no cans will be left in the alley. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's correct, Mr. Payne. And what you're saying about taking the green waste in your gardener, they can still do it at this time, and you can still put whatever you like in your truck, and you can still take it to the county, and the county will still accept the green waste. All the green waste that we'll be collecting will actually be going to the county facility. There won't be any more cans. Once we've transitioned, there won't be any more cans now.
If it is decided on who owns the cans, will we be allowed to stencil our name on them? If they're sold, we can find them each year.
So as Jeff was saying, when we roll out, we put all 3 cans in front of the house and then we take a picture. Your serial number on the cans is gonna be uploaded to your account.
It has a serial number on it.
Yeah, so these numbers right here,
That answers.
that's gonna be specific to
I'm
your.
just saying that at a quick glance, if you had to say, hey, stencil across the top, it'd be very easy to find.
Yeah. Oftentimes what we do when we're distributing is we will actually write the names on the inside of the lid. So you can just open the lid and you can tell what it is. We try not to paint on the can or stencil it because it's very difficult to remove.
One other question. All of us that have pretty large yards, we use certain amount of weed control, fertilizer containers. What happened? What are we gonna do with them?
So as you know, with fertilizer, because you are a farmer, is you have to triple rinse all of your fertilizer containers out. And if you triple rinse them and there's no residue left over, you can put it in the recycle bin. But if you put it in there with fertilizer in it, we'll be bringing it back to you.
Yeah, I use all dry fall. I use liquid for spray weed. That's what I want to do with the containers. Always.
Right, those are fantastic to recycle. I mean, they're premium material, but like I said, the contents in them, it has to be triple rinsed.
Okay, thank you.
At the last meeting, you guys mentioned for people who have mobility issues, how do you sign up for something like that? And what does that mean? Do I have to still get it to a certain point for you to take it, or how does that work?
So anyone who is disabled, who cannot hold the cans out, we will provide a service to pull the cans out for you. We just ask that they're accessible by us. In a sense, I mean, there's several of our customers where we open their gate into the yard and we walk them out, but we just ask, we don't want a dog back there to fight with, and we don't, we need it within walking, something easy to get to, and preferably close to the front of the house or even on the side of the house. Most of the time we go through the jurisdiction to make that, to tell us which customer is disabled. I hate to be the one to say, well, you look fine to me, you can walk these out. I like to rely on our jurisdiction, but also we want to make sure that someone isn't living with grandma and has, some kids there that can easily do it, but they're just using us instead. So we do monitor that closely.
Question for Mike. What are we doing with the residents who A, don't have a place for the cans in the front yard, and B, don't have sidewalks?
Well, I'll let Jeff chime in too, but I don't think sidewalks are requisite for curbside service. I mean, I think cars, get one fully loaded can, be transported across grass, driveways, things like that. So, we actually, citywide, since the last public and council workshops, we literally drove every street and we tried to identify the houses that really had a clear-cut access issue that was going to prohibit American Refuse from servicing the containers or getting storing a container and getting the containers out to the front. Honestly, we identified probably half a dozen that were really obstacle and we really need to meet, and we'll meet with them on an individual basis and we'll figure something out. But I'm not just, I mean, we literally looked at 2,000 homes, so we did it as thoroughly as we had time for, but that's why we're proposing the transition schedule, so we can take a closer look and work on a one-on-one basis with each customer if they truly feel like there's going to be a challenge. But fortunately, we have a really seasoned hauler who's living in the community and really cares about the community, which makes me as an individual confident that we're going to make this work and everyone ultimately is going to appreciate the service.
All that, if there's someone who, again, pulling their carts off of wherever, they have a medical situation that happens, they're fine in the beginning, but blow their shoulder out, now they can't move those back and forth. They just use the app to notify you that they can't participate with the carts anymore.
You could try reaching out through the app, or we'll put in a conduit for people for that to be taken care of. You can always call us and we can take care of it. I mean, a phone call goes a long way. So, but we'll take care of it.
Well, if you don't think of the questions or the issues, I mean, everyone knows how to get a hold of us. 746-5004, ask for Mike. And if you really want to come and take a look at something in your property or talk things through, Mr. Gibson and I would be happy to do that. Kevin spent a lot of time. Kevin Gibson, by the way, is our public works manager that's been managing the city operated refuse collection system for decades now. And I think his experience as well as American Revenue experience is going to ultimately make this transition successful. So don't think that this is your last opportunity to speak with us, get your questions answered. We're accessible and we're working to have American Refuse stationed here in the core city. More than likely, at the old corporation yard site at 550 North Chapter Avenue, we're hoping to have their operation based out of there. So during normal business hours, you can talk to them individually and ask questions, voice concerns, just whatever is convenient for you.
On household hazardous waste, what's gonna make it work for everybody here close? I mean, I know what's been happening, it just ends up out of the dump, but like dry paint, it's not the same as wet paint.
No.
And is there gonna be someplace a little closer than the county dump?
So, I've been pushing notifications through, the city, and I'm hoping I can eventually push them through an app too. So the county does have these special waste days that we can take things to a landfill that's a little closer. But the facility in Bakersfield, I know it's far, but a lot of us might do errands in Bakersfield. You can take that year round to them. Yeah.
The local community to we had some kind of an area here, every other Wednesday, something like that you could drop off batteries and light bulbs,
The county oversees that. That's not really something that we do. And we've reached out to the county to do it, but something like that is very costly, even when they do it once a year or twice a year. They look at the cost being close to $20,000 just for a week. So
yeah, but I want to keep it out of your cans.
I understand
that's
that.
going to happen with the general public.
I understand that, and well, there's not a lot we can do if we don't hit the numbers.
The local facility operated by the county is probably roughly the same distance, maybe a little further than the Chapter landfill is. And it's free to the public, I think Thursday through Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. And you don't have to make an appointment, and it's a drive-through facility. So my suggestion is, hold on to these things, and when it's worth the trip to that facility, you literally get out of there like in less than 5 minutes.
That's part of our advertising for this whole thing. Because that's the biggest block I see that's gonna end up being an issue. Thank you.
It's an easy facility to use, and a lot of the graffiti cleanup and even some of the paint on the mural is actually brought from that facility for people that bring it in. Chemicals that are brought in there, they have a stop and shop, so you can drop some stuff off and pick up some more stuff. It's a drive-through, it's really fast. It's very convenient.
Well, Air Travel, do you want to, we don't seem to have any other comments or questions. We could give everything, give one last try or see if anyone has anything to add, and otherwise we might want to consider close the meeting.
Yeah, there's plenty of time, there's plenty of people up here that can certainly help us in a lot of stuff. And you're gonna have more questions, because as much as we've learned, as much as we've heard through the months that we've been studying it, and staff was certainly studying it before, we had some presentations even with other people, and the transition is what's going to make it go, and you just have to be calm through it. I can tell you that others have done it, and there's no reason we can't do it. The only thing that may be hard for some of you to understand is why we have to get into this. Why do we have to do it? And we didn't really mention it tonight, but maybe you want to tell more about what's in the actual law that has required us to get to this. And believe it or not, I mean, air has changed. A lot of things have changed for us, and the people have multiplied, and we're at the point where we have to make some changes in order to save our resources and to save our future. I mean, it just has to be. You can't fight it.
Well, you know, as I pointed out at the last council meeting, when the council was asked to adopt an ordinance to meet the state mandate to have something in effect by April, which is, you know, not negotiable as far as the state is concerned. They want to at least have a commitment from the city to get an ordinance that we're going to be implementing the programs. It's not just about 3 parks and having those 3 parks accessible. It's about compliance. The state is very serious about proper use of these containers and not having organic waste landfill anymore. And so they not only suggest, but they expect the city to open these containers, inspect them, and make sure that we're on top of contamination. If we're not, then the whole truckload of material is considered trash, and we have not met the mandate. And the city, not American Refuse, not the people that are using their containers, the city is ultimately responsible, and the city is ultimately the one that's going to be issuing citations, notice of violations, and possibly fines. And the state throwing a number of $10,000 per day if for those that don't meet the mandate and are not showing good faith efforts to meet the mandate. Again, this is not American Refuge's problem if we receive a citation or a fine. It's a citywide problem. The whole city's on the hook for this. So even though the state has a tiered approach to meeting our diversion, our organic diversion requirements, it's not 100% all at once, but we have to do the programs. That part is not tiered. We have to distribute the 3 parts as early this year, and the sooner the better, according to the state. So we're meeting the mandate with regard to the ordinance. We're going to have that ordinance in effect by April. So we won't be on the state's radar as far as potential non-compliance. But it goes beyond that. We have to, again, it's not just about distributing the carts, it's about proper use of the carts. And after exhaustive research with American Refuge, discussions with other municipalities that have made the same transition, curbside service gives us the best ability to safely and efficiently monitor everyone's waste and make sure that if there's contamination, we can identify where easily, a lot more easy, where it's coming from, and we can work with that customer to correct that. So that is what it's all about, is compliance. I mean, but by enforcing the mandate, we've shared with the council that based on our experience with other conversions that we've done, we have converted alley customers to curbside already. Not because of SB 1383, but because the alleys were just too narrow, or there was too many obstacles with the newer trucks that have to service these containers. So out of necessity, we converted customers in the alley to curbside service. And a side benefit to having a safer operation is that our experience is that if the containers aren't in the alley, then the illegal dumping will decrease dramatically. So you've heard some discussions about illegal dumping decreasing. We're confident that will happen with this transition, but it's not the main motivating factor to recommend to the council that we go curbside. The main motivating factor is compliance. We need to ensure that the city gets off on the right foot and has it continuously meets the mandate and is not on the state's radar. And we've done that successfully, in my tenure, for approximately 25, 30 years. And we need to continue that policy.
And, you know, just to be fair and just to be understanding to all of you, we've been involved with American Refuge. They do live in our community, and we did grant them the opportunity to start out with commercial pickup. And commercial people weren't excited at first about it, and it's understandable, just like we're not excited about it. But they were able to work with them and to educate them, and they came around in a very short time, I think, yes. And so you don't see any of them that are complaining at all. I mean, they've made the adjustment, it's helped them. They were able to reduce a lot of what they've had to put into cans too, and as well as to satisfy the calorie cycle glass of American Refuge. So the program does work, it does. All we can do is get in it now and prove that we can do it too. So if there are any more comments for tonight, I mean, it doesn't close, it doesn't say you can't ever say anything, because you can always call staff. We have a motion to close the meeting, and it's now 6:50. We have a second. Chad, the second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are